Reflexively, she turned sharply, grabbed the hand, and twisted it. She saw Oscar standing before her, whom she unexpectedly called by his first name. She apologized immediately. Oscar interrogated what she was doing there. She explained she heard a suspicious noise and decided to check. Oscar said the only suspicious thing here was her. Then his tone softened, assuming she was just awake for some reason. Vanessa apologized and asked to go back to bed. She understood she could get under Oscar's hot hand, but he let her go and wished her good night. Locking herself in her room, she propped the door with her back, a little out of breath from how close Oscar had come. Then she calmed down and lay down, remembering his wish to sleep peacefully. Still, even if she wanted to, she knew she couldn't sleep until she understood what was going on. The next morning, Vanessa visited Cody's room and tidied it up, gathering art supplies. With the box, she went to find Cody to offer drawing again. In the corridor, Vanessa met a girl she didn't know who looked uncomfortable with a bandaged arm. She offered help and admitted she had come to visit a patient. Vanessa thought the doctor was there because of her hand, though Oscar hadn't told her anything. Wanda chuckled, saying Vanessa misunderstood and she was going to another patient. She looked at Vanessa with something frightening and warning in her eyes. Vanessa decided to inform her employer about the visitor before letting her in. Then Anna appeared, as if waiting for a guest, and said she would handle the issue herself. The girls greeted each other. Vanessa realized they knew each other well. Anna asked Vanessa to check on Cody, assuring her all was under control. Meanwhile, Mr. Paralan was in his office, looking at a prepared syringe. The door opened, and Nick told him the long-awaited guest had arrived and was waiting. Oscar was pleased and decided it was time to proceed. Anna led the guests across the house to get the barn key from the master. Approaching the door, a group member knocked and said the doctor had arrived in a nearby room. Vanessa heard someone in the hallway trying to reach her boss. She cautiously looked out and saw Anna and her guest. Noticing Vanessa's behavior, Cody asked what was going on. Vanessa didn't let him go outside. After closing the door, the boy grew curious why Anna couldn't get into his father's office. Vanessa realized they were up to something. Cody tried to rush out again, but Vanessa stopped him, fearing trouble. She remembered Anna's words, advising her to stay away from this. To distract Cody, Vanessa offered to make a beautiful card for his dad's birthday tomorrow. Anna failed to reach Oscar, who had gone to the barn and asked Nick to signal if anyone appeared. Nick wanted to help but Oscar refused, knowing even he couldn't protect him from himself. Inside, Oscar found himself in a semi-dark room with a single door hiding another section of the shed underground, like a hiding place. Oscar went downstairs, turning on a single lamp. There sat Roger, tied up, mouth taped shut. Seeing Oscar, Roger tried to speak but only muffled sounds came out. Oscar didn't want to hear anything. He approached and asked for forgiveness for how things turned out. He told Roger no one could escape now, not even family. He leaned to Roger's ear and said he should be grateful for what was coming. Roger had to pay because he had no family to punish for his mistakes. Oscar prepared a syringe. At that moment, Nick shouted to the doctor upstairs that she was waiting downstairs. Oscar wasted no time, plunged the needle into Roger's neck, and pressed the piston. Roger could no longer resist and accepted his fate. At that moment, the feet of the descending doctor appeared on the steps, but Oscar had already finished his work and hid the syringe in his pocket. Wanda entered, assuming Mr. Paralan was already anticipating the future actions she was going to take on the prisoner. She covered her hair with a handkerchief to avoid staining it with blood and prepared for the work ahead. She laid out a whole set of torture tools, her working instruments, but Oscar did not want to see any of it and hurried away, explaining he did not want to interfere. Having prepared special wire cutters, Wanda approached the prisoner and almost whispered to him to sing her the right song. The next moment, Roger's muffled scream came from the secret compartment in the shed. Oscar was rather unhappy to hear it. Going outside, he continued to wonder if he had done the right thing but hoped the injection would work as it should. Nick and Anna were waiting for him near the barn. They advised the boss to keep the mansion workers away from all this, but Mr. Paralan assured them the doctor would deal with everything quickly. They thought he was hoping in vain. However, Anna noticed the expression on Oscar's face and began to understand that he had already managed to do something to the prisoner. At that same moment, Wanda jumped out of the barn, furious and not understanding why things had gone wrong for her. She shouted that Roger did not last even 3 minutes and began interrogating Oscar about what he had given him. Mr. Paralan only said goodbye to Wanda in response and asked her to say hello to his uncle. The doctor had no choice but to prepare for the journey. Although her anger did not abate, she promised she would definitely tell Johnny that Oscar was a slob. Meanwhile, Vanessa looked out the window at what was happening while Cody drew and gave new ideas for his masterpiece. Vanessa soon noticed the doctor had not stayed in the shed for long and was leaving the mansion in a gloomy mood. But this was not all that puzzled the nanny. On Wanda's robe, she also saw a considerable number of bloodstains. Vanessa began to suspect that something bad had happened in the barn but decided not to devote herself to it this time. Still, curiosity overwhelmed her. Left alone in her room that evening, she decided to look at the tablet, realizing this could lead to trouble. Vanessa checked the cameras, beginning from the moment Mr. Paralan's car returned to the estate the day before. The black and white footage showed Adam and Nick dragging around something not like. Looking closer, Vanessa was horrified to realize it was a body wrapped in a blanket. It was late and dark in the garden, so she couldn't make out what was going on next, but she knew the cameras were multispectral, which she hoped would help. Switching to the infrared mode, Vanessa saw 2 men dragging a living person. Then she came to the terrible realization that the man was still alive at that time and now his fate was unknown. She remembered the doctor had left after lunch, and that night, they could again be carrying the body. Vanessa found a video recording showing that about an hour ago, Adam and Nick were carrying a huge package. However, this time, the sensor showed only 2 heat signatures indicating the sad outcome of events. Vanessa was horrified that her boss could do such things. Now she saw him as more than just an employer. At the same time, she was well aware these 3 were hardened criminals, and killing a person for them was like husking sunflower seeds. These conflicting thoughts battled in her mind. She tried to believe in a better option. Then she remembered she had recently given Mr. Paralan information about his cousin. After a while, they returned to the mansion with a living person and later took away a corpse. Vanessa now clearly realized these people had killed Roger, the man she herself had led them to. The girl was overcome by remorse and fear that she had helped commit a crime. The next day, Vanessa began to consider breaking her contract and quitting her job, but she did not know how she would face Barbara, who pinned all her hopes on her and loved her dearly. However, she also could not stay in this house. Taking out her phone, she dialed the number of the headmistress of the Nanny Academy. Barbara's voice answered immediately. Realizing from Vanessa's stammering that something was wrong, Barbara offered to send another nanny to the mansion. Vanessa objected, wondering what would happen if she terminated the contract early, hoping no replacement would be sent. Barbara explained that if their agent did not find a suitable reason, it would be extremely difficult to reach a compromise with the employer. At the same time, she understood Vanessa's feelings and wanted to help. She also said that if Vanessa wanted to return home, no arrangements would prevent her. Vanessa hoped she could separate work and personal life but found it too difficult. Barbara at first thought she was in danger for the child, but Vanessa clarified she meant she was doing things that made her job less safe. The headmistress suggested she would speak to the employer herself to try to eliminate the obstacles to Vanessa's work. Vanessa was frightened by the idea and begged Barbara not to do anything like that. Barbara listened and asked Vanessa to think carefully and inform her of her decision. She promised to accept whatever Vanessa chose and added that everyone at the academy missed her. After the call, Vanessa went to the kitchen, where Mrs. Kenneth was giving instructions to Julia. Noticing Vanessa looked like a ghost, Mrs. Kenneth told her to pull herself together and not be discouraged. Mrs. Kenneth explained that all the preparations were for the birthday, as family members from all over the world would gather. Vanessa offered to help, but Mrs. Kenneth only asked her to keep the boy away and advised her to do something about the bags under her eyes so people wouldn't think she was overworked. Later, Vanessa was with Cody, who was drawing their dad wearing a hat. She suggested drawing a mustache as well. She asked what Cody expected from the holiday. He said everyone would come, even Vincent and Lisa. Vanessa realized it would not be just a holiday but a day when the house would be full of all kinds of criminals. She remembered the tragic night when a fire broke out in her home. The situation felt similar. Tormented by doubts, she had never found answers to her questions but still wanted to leave this house. Turning to Cody, she felt sadder because she promised to protect him but thought her presence might make things worse, and Oscar could use her affection for the boy. She believed the best option was to refuse the job. When Cody finished the portrait, Vanessa offered to read a book. Mrs. Kenneth came in to say it was time to change for dinner. Cody was glad to get to the table soon, but Vanessa asked him to bathe first. Mrs. Kenneth pushed Vanessa out, saying she would take care of Cody herself and Vanessa needed to prepare. Vanessa objected she had no elegant clothes, but the maid assured her everything was on her bed. Entering the room, Vanessa noticed the outfit, which seemed familiar. She remembered wearing the same dress on the tragic day her parents died. Then she pulled herself together, convincing herself it was just a dress and the holiday was ordinary. She only had to endure one night. The next day, she could be free. Downstairs, Vanessa noticed Nick moving a special device over the gifts. He said it wouldn't hurt to be careful, even if only family members were present, because that was precisely why. Nick explained each family member benefited from Oscar's death in their own way. Vanessa realized he was serious. She asked where Cody was and learned he was with his second cousins. Today, it was not her concern. The children would be looked after by other nannies who came with them. Vanessa did not understand why she was there. Nick said she was the secret guard, but her task was to have fun until dinner was served. At dinner, Vanessa was instructed to notice anything suspicious in the house full of mafiosi. Meanwhile, Don Johnny was talking to his nephew, saying the doctor was disappointed because she hadn't received anything. Oscar reminded him he didn't need her services. Johnny said he gave the orders, and only the nephew carried them out, grabbing Roger and waiting for the doctor's arrival. There was no discussion about the prisoner's condition. Johnny sighed heavily, demanding unconditional obedience, while his nephew tried to plot against him. The uncle menacingly hinted he might find a more effective way to motivate him. At this moment, a girl in a red dress appeared nearby, stepping out for fresh air. Johnny asked Oscar what new employee this was. Oscar called Vanessa and introduced her to Johnny Paralan, who had come to the party. Johnny was introduced as the head of the mafia, standing above everyone. Vanessa hesitated, not expecting to meet him so soon. She already knew every crime and terrible act in the Arrive was traced back to him. She concluded Johnny must know everything that happened that night many years ago. She greeted him politely. Johnny asked where she had been trained, noting she looked too young for a nanny. Vanessa wanted to answer but noticed Oscar's look telling her to lie. She evasively said her uniqueness lay in undisclosed secrets of preparation. Johnny thought she was a little cocky but assumed her competence backed it. He knew how scrupulous Oscar was about his son's safety. Johnny called the waiter, demanding another martini with triple olives. Vanessa couldn't understand how he could smile after all he had done. She wanted to leave immediately, unable to look at him even for a second. She could still hear Johnny thinking she was a cheeky girl, different from everyone else. Vanessa felt she couldn't stay despite the contract and promise to the boy. Her intention was to leave, perhaps immediately. Then Nick suddenly appeared, startling her. She didn't want to see anyone. Nick informed her dinner had been served. Vanessa objected she was unwell, but he seemed indifferent and insisted she attend. No matter how hard she tried to excuse herself, Nick wouldn't let her go, reminding her it was the boss's order. Entering the building, Vanessa saw 3 children, including Cody. Strange children carefully examined their brother's beautiful nanny. Vanessa noticed Cody was acting like a good host and confirming he was showing good places. Cody looked very adult and confident. She remembered her own childhood when she had felt confident like that. Cody told Vanessa the kids would sit at the children's table, where she was not allowed. Vanessa was embarrassed, but Oscar's voice offered to take her there. She objected, saying it was his birthday, but he insisted and dragged her with him, even in front of others. Oscar confessed she had charmed his uncle but decided to keep silent about her past. Mr. Paralan did not want to be underestimated. He invited her to the table and pointed to her seat. Vanessa was surprised the boss invited her to the holiday. He leaned over and whispered she was now part of his family. She noticed he was skilled at phrasing every sentence as a threat. Looking at the guests, one more famous than the other, Vanessa saw the famous butcher and a madam she had read about. She realized each could be involved in her parents' death. A young man introduced himself as Kyle and was known as a Casanova. Vanessa politely introduced herself. Kyle said he was seeing her for the first time and assumed she worked for the birthday boy. She confirmed this. Kyle noticed she was tense and advised her to relax, saying no one cared about her. Then, squinting slightly, he said no one but Mr. Paralan himself cared. Vanessa glanced at Oscar, who was still watching her. Kyle said he couldn't understand Oscar's mood, whether interested, furious, or both. He admitted he and Oscar were second cousins, sharing a great-grandmother. Kyle was sorry Roger couldn't attend the party. Vanessa said it was none of her business, she was just doing her job. Surrounded by these people, Vanessa felt terrible and unable to bear it. She turned back to Oscar, confused why he didn't stop watching her. She assumed he was suspicious, thinking she might do something inappropriate. The last dish was served. Kyle invited her to join them in the library for dessert, but Vanessa refused. Kyle said he was pleased to meet her and added that many would soon move north, perhaps seeing each other more often. Vanessa said such news seemed wonderful and hurried out. In the hallway, she met Mrs. Kenneth, who asked her to take Cody to his room because he was tired. Vanessa gladly took the boy in her arms and went to his bedroom. Cody hadn't tasted the cake yet, but Vanessa assured him he could eat it for breakfast. She understood this would likely be the last morning beside him. Wishing the little one good night, she left the room. Thoughts raged in her head. Closing the door behind her, Vanessa leaned her hands against it and quietly said goodbye to the little tomboy. Immediately, she heard the boss's voice behind her, who knew this would happen. She turned sharply. But at that very moment, she did not know what Mr. Paralan would say in reply. He later added that she had been on pins and needles all evening, noticed not only by him but also by the others. Although he did not know what had happened, he advised the nanny to solve the problem because they could not show weakness. The girl cut in that there was none and admitted she was worried he had lied to her. Oscar wondered what exactly he had deceived her about. The girl took it as if he had lied more than once. Mr. Paralan repeated his question in a menacing tone, asking what exactly he had lied to her about. Vanessa blurted out that she knew what Oscar had done to his cousin, but immediately covered her mouth with her hand, horrified at how much she had revealed, even though she was going to quit anyway. Oscar didn't deny it, except for his first sentence. He assured that he had never really lied to her. The girl was outraged that her boss did not even try to help Roger, although he said he was in danger. But Oscar pointed out he never said he was going to help him, so there was no lie in his words. Then Vanessa accused him of using her, despite her not wanting to be involved in his business, and deceiving her to get help. Oscar replied he had no choice. He also reproached the nanny for lying when he gave her access to the network. She promised to check only the necessary files. She didn't understand what this had to do with what was happening. Mr. Paralan explained that when she started digging under them, she probably thought no one would notice. Vanessa thought Oscar himself had noticed, but it wasn't him. He admitted he was being watched. The man said his uncle did not trust anyone and everything he did was transferred to the main computer in Albuquerque. Then Vanessa realized the mirroring program wasn't watching her at all, it was her boss. Oscar explained that the girl's actions led to her uncle finding out about it and giving him a task to remind him what happens to traitors. Now Vanessa understood Oscar did not kill his cousin of his own free will. She realized she was to blame for everything, while her boss was also punished, and she had only reproached him. Oscar tried to calm her down but at the same time gave her a choice: either he would hide information from her or she would participate fully with him. Vanessa faced an even more difficult and frightening choice and didn't know how to answer. She didn't understand why she had to choose, but it was she who was digging into Oscar's family and accessing the system. She began apologizing to her boss, explaining she was just curious and did not know someone would die because of it. The girl was so upset she burst into tears. It was her fault a person was injured. Mr. Paralan added that sooner or later they would have come for Roger anyway. He assured her his cousin was lucky because, thanks to Oscar, he passed painlessly to the other world. Seeing the crying nanny, he regretted dragging her into all this. But the girl was still sure it was her fault. Oscar later praised her unsurpassed hacking skills and asked her to find his cousin. He knew any delay might have ended differently and his uncle might doubt his loyalty. The girl didn't understand why Oscar hadn't fired her immediately after she helped him save face. Everyone had their own secrets, and the fact that her boss didn't lie to her didn't mean he told her everything. At the same time, he entrusted her with protecting Cody. Mr. Paralan came closer, took her hands, and asked her to stay. He admitted he knew she was thinking of leaving and that it was all too much for her, but he wanted her to stay. Oscar added Vanessa was needed for the boy and for both of them. Though it seemed Cody was safe, the girl didn't understand why her boss was so confident he could convince her. She felt her opinion was changing, but then pushed him away, saying she needed to think, and rushed off. Oscar didn't follow, staying in the corridor, hoping she'd make the right decision. Vanessa locked herself in her room, trying to sort out her thoughts and understand what she was doing. Her head went blank when Oscar looked at her like that. She realized he was using her concern for Cody to his advantage. During this time, she remembered many sides of him: how angry he was, how he cared for her as she fell asleep on the floor, and how he gently woke her. She recalled the day at the pool and their fun together, but also the threatening things he whispered in her ear. She couldn't tell which personality was real and imagined what would happen if all sides came together. She also remembered the garden conversation when Oscar was about to reveal his goals for Cody. She remembered how the boy raged, explaining his father couldn't trust anyone after losing his wife. Oscar was concerned his uncle would doubt his loyalty. Vanessa felt Oscar had little under control and that he had chosen her for a different reason. She understood she didn't deserve his full trust and thought of him mostly negatively, but he was different. She caught herself breaking her rule not to get emotionally attached but didn't know how to avoid it. All this brought back painful memories. At that moment, she swore even the smell of smoke was real. Then she realized the cruel truth: the smoke was real and the house was likely on fire. Her first thought was to check on little Cody and if he was hurt. The fire raged outside her door, but that didn't stop her. She decided to save the boy, wondering if Oscar had escaped the flames. The fire spread quickly and nearly trapped her, blocking all possible paths. But she didn't give up. Covering her nose to inhale less smoke, she carried out her plan. Soon, she found the boy sitting frightened in his room. The fire hadn't reached him yet. She wrapped Cody in a blanket and explained there was a fire and they needed to get out immediately. Cody wanted to pick up his beloved duckling fallen in the far corner of the bed, but there was no time. With the boy in her arms, Vanessa raced down the hallway to the exit as fast as possible. Her path was blocked by a small collapse of boards, burned out and fallen, blocking the passage. She realized she couldn't get out via the stairs and had to find another way. In the distance, she saw a driver trying to call her and Cody through the smoke. She shouted that the boy was with her and they would try to escape through the window. Running past Oscar's burning room, Vanessa hoped he wasn't there when the fire started. They found a room not yet engulfed by flames but filled with smoke. She sat Cody down, who worried about his dad, realizing they were trapped. Vanessa leaned against the balcony door, which was jammed. After much effort, she pushed it open and stepped onto the balcony. She inspected how best to descend. Vanessa returned for the boy, who begged her to find his dad. She believed Oscar had escaped and told Cody the stairs were blocked, so they'd have to climb down ivy on the wall. Though sad, Cody understood and agreed. Vanessa lifted him onto her back, told him to hold tight, and prepared to descend. Climbing over the railing, she felt for places to rest her bare feet. Ivy spikes dug into her arms, legs, and face, but she didn't give up. The thick branches began to crack, and Vanessa realized the plant couldn't hold them both. Looking down, she saw bushes below and decided to jump. Turning the boy to face her, she prepared to leap. They flew through the air. Vanessa tried not to twist, so Cody wouldn't get hurt. The landing wasn't as soft as she'd hoped, but better than hitting the ground directly. The bushes sprung back slightly, and they rolled on the grass, Cody covering his head. Lying on the ground, Vanessa was glad she'd saved him. Cody tried to escape her embrace, anxious to find his father. He saw only fire and devastation around. He asked the nanny where his father was and why he wasn't there. They soon saw a crowd that had escaped the burning house, but Mr. Paralan was nowhere. They met the driver Adam, who was glad the boy and nanny escaped. Vanessa wondered if he'd seen Oscar. Adam thought the gentleman might have escaped through the back door. Vanessa questioned why the fire alarm hadn't sounded. Adam was sure it was all set up on purpose. Vanessa recalled the day from her childhood when the alarm also didn't sound. For a moment, she felt history was repeating and was sure the same person was behind both fires. Cody saw the window of his father's room, almost burned out, and worried more. Adam assured the boy his father wasn't there but was in the library. Julia raised the alarm. Vanessa didn't understand the servant's involvement. Adam said the maid was taking plates to the kitchen when she noticed the smoke. The flames spread fast. Cody cried. Vanessa assumed Oscar was with Nick and Anna since they were missing. She asked Cody to trust them, they did their job as well as she did hers. Mrs. Kenneth came to check the list to ensure everyone left. She was sure Oscar, his uncle, Nick, and Anna escaped through the back door. Vanessa overheard people wondering who the fire's target was. It was clear it was the family home, but the Don was also present, making access difficult. Someone suggested the arsonist could be any of them. Soon, fire engine sirens sounded. The driver opened the gate. Within a minute, firefighters began spraying powerful streams of water on the building. Kyle appeared near Vanessa. He lamented the magnificent house burning without thinking about those inside. Kyle boasted about spending much money on a gift Oscar wouldn't be able to open now. He said Oscar was 2 years younger but his grey hair was deceiving. Cody thought his dad was blonde. Kyle chuckled, hinting Oscar wasn't honest. The boy was angry, about to yell, but then heard his father calling. Forgetting everything, Cody couldn't believe he heard his father's voice again and that he was alive. Oscar was with his men and uncle, now approaching the crowd. Cody immediately threw off his blanket and rushed toward his father as fast as he could, almost jumping. The next moment, Mr. Paralan was already hugging his son tightly and was glad the boy was all right. Vanessa then approached, but Oscar started yelling at her for not answering his calls. The girl didn't understand why he was so furious since her phone was left inside and she didn't have time to think about it. Kyle appeared like a shadow again, praising Vanessa's heroic deed of jumping from the second floor with the boy. Realizing he was wrong, Mr. Paralan immediately calmed down and agreed that Vanessa needed to rest. Vanessa said that next time she would call the special services first and not act instinctively. Oscar didn't quite understand what she meant by next time but decided not to question her further for now. After tonight, Vanessa was convinced she couldn't remain indifferent. She looked at the two who now seemed completely innocent and defenseless and understood they needed her help. She corrected herself, explaining that next time she would just try harder. Anna then approached, wanting to bandage a wound on Oscar's head. He did not remember how he escaped through the collapsing garage. Anna guessed he was still in blind panic and asked to be reminded why he was keeping her with Nick. Nick, who was nearby, jokingly replied it was to help him get out of burning buildings. Kyle noticed Oscar didn't trust the nanny much regarding his son's safety, but Vanessa assured him Oscar acted like any parent. Kyle suggested she move to his organization if she wanted to feel truly valuable. The girl thought Kyle had children, but he said no and had other interests. Kyle explained he always had a job for a lady who jumps out of windows. Then he left. Nick came up to Vanessa next, and she saw truth in his words. He noticed that even if she agreed to move to Kyle, she still wouldn't be able to leave. Vanessa assured him it wasn't necessary. Nick noticed her hesitation and asked her to leave immediately if she still had doubts.